NIKKE, a waifu gacha game that divided the internet with its controversial booty physics, powered by coding hot enough to melt your phone, and costumes hot enough to rob your wallet. But in 2024, there's no shortage of cultured games out there, and most gacha games have found some way to capitalize on the demands for fan service. So why is it that NIKKE in particular is so successful and beloved by so many fans, including myself? If it were as simple as making the most outlandish fan service, Azur Lane would be constantly topping the charts, with its fan service so strong that it broke the internet more than once. So why does NIKKE in particular stand out? As a 2-year veteran player, I'm here to tell you. We're diving into NIKKE, Beyond the Booty. Like almost every other gacha game on the market, NIKKE reels you in with hot women. Sweet and simple, literally. Sexy women with scandalous outfits and gratuitous animation is its marketing strategy, and boy does it work, because almost everyone in online gaming circles has heard about it in one way or another. And in terms of marketing, in a sea, shovelware, lies, clones, and cash grabs, the most important step to standing out is being remembered. The game can be incredible, but if people don't remember it, they won't download it to give it a try. So whether out of desire to goon or out of morbid curiosity, many people were drawn to download NIKKE and experience it for themselves. And what did we think? Okay, we're gonna dive into spoilers ahead. The game begins by introducing us to Marion, a soldier under our command, and the character that we think will be the game's main featured waifu bait. We get attached to her in what we think is a ploy to make us pull, until in a devastating cutscene, she asks us to execute her for the sake of humanity. And this is only the first moment our spirits are broken in the game. I cried, chat cried, hell, I'm sure half of you probably cried. And that was the moment we were locked in. Because yeah, NIKKE is the definition of coming for the plot, but staying for the plot. Because the plot is actually good. I'm only on chapter 24 though, so go easy on me in the comments. The story isn't afraid to get quite dark or handle more mature subjects, with a frequent theme being what it really means to be human, as many of the characters are quite literally treated subhuman. And the plot does not shy away from this. Hell, the game likes making us get attached to characters specifically to later have them face horrific situations and make us cry. And it's not just the NIKKE that face horrific situations, it's everyone. In the world of NIKKE, humanity is living underground in the Ark, as a necessity to hide from the Raptures, a bunch of alien robot things that have essentially taken over the planet with the goal of killing all humans. Of course, not all of humanity could fit in the giant hole dug underground, so most of humanity is dead. And this isn't just glossed over as a plot point either. There are lore drops all throughout the series that display a gruesome picture of what this would have looked like. And even for those lucky enough to technically make it underground, there are also people that just plain survive in the Outer Rim, an area deprived of any resources, where people do what they have to just to survive. And what does humanity do to survive? Turn young women into living weapons. NIKKE are cyborgs, human brains living in robotic bodies, shunned by most of humanity and forced to live the remainder of their lives as living weapons. Some consented to becoming NIKKE while others were forced to, or situations caused so many bodies that the government was forced to make use of them to prevent further tragedy. Some don't even remember who they are. And just in case they become too dangerous, every single one of them is infused with a tool to erase their memories and reset their brains to fix them, causing them to lose their entire sense of self. Oh, and they always carry self-termination pistols in case they become a liability and need to die for the sake of everyone else, like Marion. But all of them are treated as disposable weapons in a war to reclaim the surface and bring humanity back to its glory days. Of course, this leads to a world rich in political corruption and propaganda, which we slowly begin to learn about as the plot moves on. Without going into too much detail, it's a fascinating journey where the more you learn about the world, the more you realize you know nothing at all. And even when certain arcs are predictable, they're satisfying and keep you on the edge of your seat due to the writing's execution. The foreshadowing also comes to satisfying conclusions, where we're given just enough information to put the pieces together without it being shoved in our faces. And the plot twists are horrifying without feeling too much out of place because the tone is so well set. So yeah, the cheeks are not the only heavy thing in this game. And believe it or not, the plot is the reason most of us keep playing. Hell, even the game's first Christmas event ended up being one of the biggest tearjerkers in the game. So it's always fun waiting to see what the story will throw at us next. And it's not just a Christmas event either. The events rotate out every few weeks, and they have a tremendous amount of effort put into them. Though the majority are unvoiced, so you can subscribe now if you want to see me voice act them live. They offer a huge variety of fun content, from goofy chaos to dramatic events to actual game-breaking lore drops. And it's always exciting to see what the next one has to offer. Well, except the collabs, which we don't really talk about, but I mean, hey, the units are fun. The short window between each event also does a good job of keeping you interested and invested, which is great to keep players active, especially if they're caught up with the main story, since there's always an influx of new content. Each event brings in a new character to pull as well, and even more than the plot, I'd say the characters are the biggest highlight of the game. No, I do not mean their assets, but the characters themselves and their well-rounded personalities. What'd you think I was gonna say? Because yeah, sure, the game can be pretty heavy on the fan service, but the characters' personalities are so fun and vibrant, and the voice actors do an incredible job of bringing their personalities to life. The lines have made me laugh out loud more than once.
Yes!
10 out of 10 laugh.
That was
10
so
out of 10.
good.
Brought me to tears many times and get attached to certain characters to an embarrassing degree. It's fun to watch the characters interact in the world and see them go through their own emotional journeys, for better and for worse. And honestly, the game just does a brilliant job making you care about the characters, which is pretty huge and important for a gacha game where the entirety of their success depends on how much you want to throw money at the characters. Even though a lot of them might be a bit tropey, or their designs might be blatant ripoffs of existing characters, they're executed so well that I don't really care, and I look forward to meeting each new one that's introduced. I have yet to find a character boring. Hell, even the ones I actively hate are so well done that I love to hate them. Another thing that really helps bring immersion to the game is the incredible sound design. In addition to the voices, the music and sound effects are phenomenal, setting the tone perfectly as the story unfolds. I loved the music from the very beginning, but two parts that really stood out to me were Overzone, an event that featured a lot of Nier-esque music, and the newest anniversary event featuring haunting cello melodies that leave a sense of foreboding and loss as horrific events play out. The music is done by a number of composers. Probably the best known in the community is Cosmograph, who also happens to be the sound director for the game. And the best part is, you can customize the song that plays in your lobby. So if you have any favorites, you can listen to them every time you pull up the game. I personally recommend Lovely Lonely Cat or ACPU Freeze. Honestly, the music is so damn good, I recommend checking out the soundtrack even if you have no intention of ever playing the game. Whether you're into vocal or instrumental pieces, it goes hard with both, in every genre from smooth jazz to electro swing. Hell, come here because you're a fan of VTubers? Some of the songs featured in the game are even performed by VTubers. This, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the features requested by players. Because guess what? NIKKE actually listens to its players instead of just trying to squeeze them for as much as they're worth. In particular, dailies used to be insufferable, taking me almost an hour around launch, but have over time been optimized so well that I can complete them in just like 15 minutes. They've also started adding temporary events as permanent features, so that people who missed them can still experience the story, and even go as far as to add voice acting for some of the fan favorites. It shows an initiative to constantly improve their product and listen to players, which is nice to see because nothing is ever perfect. And though I give it high praise, NIKKE is not perfect. In particular, one of the things that gets the most complaints is the gameplay itself, which proves just how good the story is actually. If NIKKE is a game that people love so much but they hate the game itself, the game is a simple shooter where for the most part winning just depends on how built your units are. The gameplay can get a bit repetitive, though luckily there are some bosses with more complex mechanics, but even those can be killed quickly with brute force if you're strong enough. Building units takes either time, money, or a combination of both. So the reality is you're going to get locked out of some of the story content until you can build your units high enough. One notorious part in particular is the 160 wall, where new players can get stuck for months, and passing this hurdle is entirely reliant on your gacha luck, as you have to max out dupes for 5 characters. This led a number of people to frustration and quitting the game, and story content was eventually made easier as a consolation, as people were frustrated at the difficulty being locked to stats instead of skill. But it does still require a decent amount of climbing to unlock the best parts. Due to the need to farm resources, this is a game where you will need to do your dailies religiously or you won't be able to progress. However, as long as you do, you will catch up eventually, even as a free player. And the game is surprisingly surprisingly generous to free players who do their dailies. Though I did upgrade to Dolphin, I am so sorry. I spent a decent amount of time as a free player and still managed to collect all the units I wanted without spending a dime. You're given a generous amount of free pulls, up to 200 this anniversary actually. So you should, in theory, be able to collect every limited time unit without missing out on any. NIKKE uses a system where most units enter a permanent pool after their banner ends, though at much smaller odds, except for a rare amount of temporary units, seasonal and collab, that cease to exist after the banner's completion. If you save your pulls carefully, you should be able to get most, if not all, of the limited units if your goal is waifu collecting. If your goal is maxing out units, however, you will be required to whale. That being said, even if you do save, as much as you're given a decent amount of pulls, the pity system is atrocious, guaranteeing a unit after 200 pulls. So if your luck is trash, you might still be out of luck. But luckily, the limited banners usually only happen 4 or so times a year, with 2 collabs and 2 seasonal events. The game also features a wish list option, so for regular pulls, you're guaranteed to get one of the characters you want, which makes it easier to skip regular banners when you need to. As a dolphin, I found a good balance only spending on 30-day packs, and the odd costume keeps me quite happy, progressing at a good speed and pulling everything I really want. As someone who thought I would never ever spend on a gacha game because I was too worried about picking up bad habits, I've never felt compelled to spend on pulls, and ended up putting money into the game because I wanted to, not because it felt necessary. I genuinely love the game and wanted to support the developers. Feel like I get a decent value in return. Overall, I was quite skeptical about gacha when I threw myself into NIKKE. I like to get exactly what I'm paying for, and felt burned by how bad the free-to-play experience was in a previous game I had recently quit. But I gave it a try for the memes because those asses were all over the internet, and I thought, hey, at least I'll get a good laugh maybe. And then the game got me. The game I played as a joke took over my life and has no business being as good as it is, to the point that it actively makes me sad that so many people only know it as the booty game, because it's honestly so much more than that. I have now streamed NIKKE over 100 times. I have dug a rabbit hole that countless friends and even family have followed, and now we're all glued to our phones, eternally waiting for the next update. And do I regret it? No. Because the game has honestly restored my faith in gacha, and I've really come to love it. It feels like a passion project that both the devs and the community just really love. And of course, every fandom has its toxic corners. But for the most part, everyone has been so lovely, welcoming, and kind that I've had some of the most fun I've ever had as a streamer playing this game. And if you're like me and have been admiring the booty game from a distance, debating playing it for the memes, give it a try. Who knows, you might just find your new favorite game. And if you want to see me stream the game live, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. And if you already play, leave a comment telling me who is best girl. It's Scarlet, by the way.